to this stuff. Um, it's really, well, I'm really psyched about how what we're talking about here, these are not tactics for winning arguments. And literally anybody who you would want to have conversations with, and maybe it'd be actually a useful thing if you wanted to have conversations with people that are in the context of these ideas, to have them watch these videos, because this isn't like, these aren't ideas where you kind of get an edge on a conversation at all. These are really ideas that that if we take up these ideas as a community, the intention is to sort of open us all up to possibilities, because the notion of thickening descriptions is certainly something that, you know, would be amazingly it would be fabulous if it was done in all directions. So in other words, everyone was interested in thickening the descriptions of the people that they're talking to. Everyone was interested in taking up positions where we don't just totalize folks, and where we're trying to understand what people mean by the words that they use. And so so yeah, so just want to throw that out. And then for dealing with in conversations with people that you care about and relationships that you care about, again, I'm not suggesting that that you would necessarily use these ideas in conversations with folks that you don't know, or that you meet on the sidewalk, or that are screaming at you. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like, if somebody's screaming at you and you're like, I really want to understand what you mean by the words that you say. I can see myself doing that. I'm not suggesting that it's going to be a really fruitful conversation, but I certainly think that, you know, if that was a response to somebody who was yelling at me, it would certainly kind of perhaps surprise them. that I know you're yelling at me, but I'm actually really interested in understanding either why you're yelling at me, or what you're yelling at me says about what you stand for, what you hold dear. This yelling at me, why is this yelling at me? What is it about? What is it that you're holding dear that has you yelling at me right now? You know, and again, I'm not suggesting that you do that, but that's sort of a, you know, if you think about an extreme application, it's not outside the realm of something I might do. And you can see how, if that was a response to somebody who was yelling at me, how it would like change what was going on there. So anyway, but yeah, so thickening descriptions. So thickening descriptions, you know, I talked about yesterday, you know, it's a move past this notion of totalizing. And for me, the one of the fundamental notions in the context of really, you know, everything I do, but also these conversations is curiosity. And to come, if you're in a situation where you don't think you're going to be able to come from a position of curiosity, then don't start, because it's not going to be useful for anybody. But if you can muster that curiosity and be like, yes, I really want to understand what you mean by the words that you use, that's sort of the entree to the thickening of the description. Because ultimately what we do, you know, one of my students said, and it was one of my favorite things, my students, I have amazing students all the time, but somebody said back early on, I think like the first time I taught a course in narrative therapy, she said that one of the things I love about these ideas is they get me thinking about what I mean by the words that I use. Because really, if you take a moment and ponder some of the things that you say all the time, have you ever thought about like why you use those words? And one of the things I talk about a lot is also the non-neutrality of language. That language is not neutral, and just by saying that, I'm creating this possibility, because then you go, oh, because words come from places, and words are linked to other ideas, and those ideas can then kind of get passed down through generations of conversation without us ever really thinking about what it exactly is that we're talking about. And there's lots of stuff that kind of gets exposed over time. This, you know, this is a step away from, this isn't about political correctness. This is about the idea that when I use certain words, I'm carrying traditions with them. And it's not to say that all those traditions are bad, because a lot of them aren't bad, but I just want to be clear. I want to be aware of what I'm passing on, regardless of what my beliefs are. I want to make sure that the words that I use are kind of consistent with whatever beliefs I happen to have. And so this is kind of an invitation to be in that place. So you know, so I'm really wanting to understand what you mean by the words that you use, then creates this so we've already created what we talk about as like a territory. So now there's a territory of possibilities here. So now we're both in this place of, now we've got these words. So, you know, what do we mean by these words that we use? And then and those conversations can kind of percolate. And then there's the questions about, what does it say about what you're standing for, what you're holding dear, your hopes, dreams, and desires, aspirations. And that's where the thickening comes in, because once you start to talk about hopes, dreams, desires, aspirations, the things we're holding dear, the things we're standing for, the territory. But again, back to that analogy of what your flashlight in your attic is going to start to illuminate, it becomes more and more vast. And the other thing that's, you take that, so you get the attic analogy, right? And then there's a door in that attic, and then you open that door, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there. And so, like, the idea is that you actually have the opportunity to realize, so you get an attic which is just full of boxes, and then there's a door which opens up to another room that's also full of boxes. And again, this is not to exclude or eliminate any of the boxes. All the boxes stay. It's just to illuminate more and more and more boxes. So that's just to start, just to get a starter offer, thinking about curiosity and thinking about the idea of being curious in the context of the words that we use, the words that people we care about and love use, what they mean by those words, and to invite us all as a community into this possibility of starting off by thinking about that what we mean by the words that we use. Because then we kind of customize those words, so then they're about those things that are linked to what matters to us. Start with that. We'll get to the holding dear questions tomorrow, and I'll talk to you